Spoiler alert, Slashers Paradise encourages viewers to watch these horror films before listening to our show. Danny and Lance will go through everything, including filmmaking, dialogue, characters, and even full scene breakdowns when we get excited. Enjoy the show.
Hello! You've reached Town Video. After hours. For store hours, please press 1. For the horror movie recommendation of the week, please press 2. For the slash word of the night, please press 3. For all other recommends, you've selected the slash word of the night. Tonight's slash word is Vegas.
Oh, Lance, I got a new one for you.
I can't wait to hear it, Danny.
It goes like this. In Vegas, a leprechaun spree turns chaos as wild as can be. With gold and with gore, he kills and he roars. In Leprechaun 3, where madness runs free. What do you think?
Wow. Welcome, everyone, to Slashers Paradise. That's Danny, and I'm Lance. It is the annual, God bless it, Leprechaun Day for us. St. Patrick's Day is here, and you know what that means. Slashers Paradise is back with the Leprechaun, thanks to Danny freaking Gonzalez, one of your favorites.
You bet your sweet green ass I am bringing Leprechaun 3 into the Slashers just for rhyming, Slashers Paradise. Folks, we're very excited. I'm going to speak for Lance and saying that we are very excited, but you all know how excited I am about talking about Leprechaun. It's weird. I look forward to this day the whole year. I just, there's something about that first Leprechaun movie that we talked about, during, St. Patrick's Day. And then we did a watch along last year for Leprechaun 2. That was a lot of fun. And now we're back to the roots, albeit remote from Phelps Garage. And then, of course, the Slashers Paradise. We are going to do Leprechaun 3. And I did that limerick on purpose. It will all make sense. But let me tell you something, folks. Lance and I quite often do kind of, what's the shtick of Slashers Paradise? Why? What are we doing? We always say we are children of the video store, and we are in it now, baby. We are in it now. We are talking about a very unique and one of the all-time greats straight to video store movies. We'll get into all of that, but we're bringing the thunder in forms of a potato tasting Leprechaun 3 episode. That's right.
Well, that's the intro. Danny had some convincing to do to get me to do Leprechaun in the first place. And last year was a watch along that we had a few drinks during, and I literally don't remember the second movie at all. So I don't know if there's much of a continuation through this movie. But we're here.
I'm gonna help you out real quick.
Good.
There is none.
Okay, good. Of course not. Why would there be? No. This was intended to be a trilogy. This is supposed to be the end of it. So there's some fun facts right away. This went direct to video. It's the first Leprechaun film to go direct to video. Our first episode of Leprechaun was the first time that we started reminiscing about the video store art, direct to video, and kind of changed, honestly, the landscape of Slashers Paradise. That would have been 2 years ago. So everything since then we owe to Leprechaun. And I have to say, Danny looks forward to this so much. I am beginning to really look forward to this. The ridiculousness of these movies. They're a lot of fun. There's not much to me, much scare. Put a pin in that one because there is something scary about Leprechaun in this one to me, and we'll get into that. We've got a whole load of business to talk about. It's been a while since we've been on, so welcome back to the Slashers Paradise. We've missed you. We're back. We're working on a ton of content, lots of suggestions, some requests, and some old business to take care of with some of the older franchises. So we are working on that. We got some little surprises coming as well within that. Don't forget the website, deadcandy.com. There's more Slash Paradise stuff coming there too. As far as this episode goes, we got our business to take care of. We've got a game that we play here. It's called Slash Word. Danny, how does Slash Word work?
I'm so glad you asked, Lance, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell everyone how Slash Word works right now. Slash Word, folks, is the Slasher's Paradise version of the popular game Pathword, wherein during the episode, if you hear the slash word said, take a drink. You could take a drink of anything you'd like. I mean, obviously, don't kill yourself. But we ask that if you want to make it alcoholic or not, it doesn't matter. We just ask that you play along and have fun and participate in the very original slash word game for this episode.
That's right. Drink responsibly. It is a drinking holiday, whatever. Wear green. Drink whatever, drink something green. That would be awesome too. We have something here as well, which is Danny's hilarious or quick take or whatever you want to call it of the movie. A quick rundown, Danny style. We call it the Pina Colada. Danny, give us our Pina Colada.
Pina Colada. We'll say Shamrock Pina Colada, maybe. You know, it's got a little green tint there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's the first time there's the only time I'll actually drink any mint anything. Anyway.
Oh, I forgot my mint Oreos. Damn it.
Good. Leave them where they're at. So, Pina Colada for Leprechaun 3. The Leprechaun is loose in Las Vegas. Yes, folks. The city where lights and fun and dreams take over, but one thing rules more than anything: money. And of course, the Leprechaun is drawn to the glitz, the glamour, and the money of Las Vegas. And basically, that's it. He is on the search for his gold. Of course, one has gone missing, and he will do anything to reclaim his gold shilling. What's going to happen? Or is anyone going to survive? Is anyone going to be able to capture the Leprechaun and end his terror forever? That remains to be seen in the third installment of the franchise, Leprechaun 3, Las Vegas.
All right. Thank you very much, Danny. And the breakdown for the film. It was released direct to video June 27th, 1995, with a budget of $1.2 million. The movie was written by David DuBose. Directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who's got a little more horror history to go with this. We'll talk about that. The movie stars Warwick Davis, which is awesome. John Gattens, Lee Armstrong, Caroline Williams. Yay, we'll talk about her as well. John DeMita and Michael Collin. That is the breakdown for the film. What a joy this was to watch, Danny.
Lance, look, seriously, it's okay. It's okay to like shit sometimes. And this is one of those movies that you don't need to defend ever, okay? This is, quite frankly, you could say that for a lot of movies in this franchise, in the Leprechaun franchise. You don't need to defend them ever because you know what? It's all about the fun. And you know who's having the most fun? Warwick Davis. You
Absolutely.
can tell that dude did not take a paycheck for, this is not Michael Caine doing Jaws the Revenge. No way, sir. This man showed up for every day of filming every Leprechaun installment that he was in. And of course, as the years go on, we're going to get into the rest of them. But we have 3 now that we're going to be able to talk about. And he does not take a day off. That man swings for the fences every single time. And you could see it. You could see when someone is in it to win it. And you could see when someone is just phoning it in. That is not Mr. Warwick Davis. I think that is one of the highlights, of course, of this movie. You could always appreciate when an actor does, well and or gives a shit. And, Warwick Davis, it didn't diminish anything of his aura in Hollywood. This is a very accomplished actor, somebody who's been in some of the most historic and of course remarkable franchises in Hollywood history. So he has his own franchise that stands and sits on his shoulders, which is this franchise in Leprechaun. So I think that if he can suit up and wear an exorbitant amount of that makeup and the teeth and all that shit and have a good time, or at least what I see on the screen that he's having a great time, I could have a good time too.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely obviously steals the show, but I kind of noticed that at a certain point. And obviously the budget's kind of low for this. Obviously the acting isn't great at times. But he just shines as a character actor. Like, it's just so much fun to see him on camera doing what he does. And it's like, you can't help but just have a good time no matter what's going on. Remember from the very first one, listen to our first episode, he was the one that turned this to a comedy horror kind of franchise towards a movie. And remember, the original was supposed to be a little more dark, a little more serious. Yeah, right. I think he kind of knew, he saw the writing on the wall for that one and was like, let's go comedy. And this one full on is just like, all right, comedy. Like every character is just kind of ridiculous and funny. And it's like, okay, we know exactly what this is. I think maybe that's from what little I remember of Leprechaun 2. Maybe that's where things kind of went sideways. It's like maybe some people are taking it a little too seriously. They're trying to flesh out a story where this is literally a leprechaun in Las Vegas. Let's go. There's no way around this.
And here's the thing, Lance. Look, I don't want to sound elitist or anything like that, but when these movies, I'm talking about direct-to-video movies, your sci-fi original movies, these that are kind of different as far as the budget and the way it looks and the story and maybe sometimes the editing and stuff like that. So, as a kid watching this, I was obviously comparing it to 1 and 2 of the franchise, and part 1 was like, I still think it's a fantastic horror movie because I do think it doesn't go as shtick as, of course, we are in full shtick mode in this franchise, but there are still some kind of terrifying, yet it starts to go down the gross, sort of. They lean into the gore of the movie as well, and where it wasn't, I don't think, as apparent in the first installment. This one is definitely leading into the gore and stuff like that. So, what I remember though about watching this movie, I was like, I don't know if I could take. Am I supposed to take this seriously? I'm talking about when I was a kid, right? I don't know if I should take this seriously. Yeah. There's the leprechaun, and it's almost like we're telling the fish out of water story over and over and over again. It's Jason Takes Manhattan. It's Leprechaun, in Las Vegas. It's Hellraiser, who was the first one to go to space. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that was like, okay, but is this all you're going to do is just keep on telling the fish out of water story? Because it's like, the Leprechaun is from Ireland, it's a fairy tale character. Jason is from Crystal Lake, so on and so forth. It's like, eventually it gets old, but for Leprechaun, it was like, no, we're going to take him out of where he's supposed to be right away. So the franchise just ends up evolving into this thing. It's like, where can we stick him that would be so out of place, right? So, Vegas is one, but of course, as I mentioned in the Pina Colada, Vegas is very much right up his alley because there's money flowing all over the place. So he's definitely, there's a point where he's walking around and he sees he's walking by the golden nugget, and it's hilarious. Okay, so look, I now as an adult, when I'm watching it, I get such a kick out of like moments. I'm like, okay, this is definitely the director with his camera and Warwick walking down the strip. He's like, let me just get some reaction shots really quick. Let me get some. So at one point, he walks by the golden nugget, I think, and he just goes, and he just like takes off. That's it. Like, it's just a reaction. We just want you. We don't really want to pay the golden nugget for anything. So can you just like walk by and laugh or anything? But the original point I do want to make is like, it's like when you watch those movies, direct to video, original sci-fi originals, it's like they're almost there. They're almost there. That's how I feel. Like I'm like, dang it! If they had a little bit more money, the set wouldn't look like shit, or the lighting wouldn't look that way,
Yeah.
or the spaceship. As usually there was sci-fi originals, there were always spaceships. So it's like, oh, it wouldn't look that way. But so this one, I feel like it's like shedding its skin, because you see, like, well, I mean, there's Leprechaun and there's Carolyn Williams. Like, we know these people to be some like in well produced like movies and such. So I just remember feeling like that, but kind of just, I remember I would watch it and be like, no, it's fine. It's a Leprechaun movie. They're all the same. But then, of course, I grow up and I'm like, well, no, they're not.
Yeah, a little different. Actually, the scene that you mentioned where he's walking by the Golden Nugget reminds me. There's a couple scenes of that, and I was like, oh, they didn't pay for this at all. And it's true. It's actually, they had no permits. They shot everything one night in Vegas. It's about all they had. They shot everything in 14 days. And everything, mostly all the insides, was actually done in Hollywood, an old hotel, the Ambassador Hotel, which is gone now. But they only had like one night in Vegas to shoot everything that is shot in Vegas, which I thought was so funny because as a kid, I had no idea that there's like two parts of Vegas. There's Fremont Street, which is like old Vegas. And then everything that you know nowadays, like the Luxor and all that kind of stuff, is like New Vegas. It's like higher up. It's like a mile away or something like that. But the way movies film it so much is like, well, you got to show old Vegas because that's what people know. And then we kind of mix in New Vegas. You think it's all like mashed into one. But the way that they shot it and the establishing shots, like, okay, we're in Vegas. It feels so small and like dinky, you know, compared to like what
it does
other movies kind of do with that, you know?
Yeah. If you want to know how to shoot Vegas, you know, watch Vegas Vacation.
Yes,
that's how you shoot Vegas.
Vegas.
But I agree with you though about the way like the establishing shots in the beginning. Okay, so the credits, they begin and it's like, okay, this feels like the original, you know, Leprechaun. The credits are rolling and stuff like that. And then like the credits are not done and it's now some aerial shots, but then it's like a zoom in of the Sphinx from the Luxor. And it's like, you know, in 95 in Fremont, the cowboy is still there and you know, both the cowboy and the cowgirl and all that stuff. But it's like, Vegas is, you know, for me is I can remember three versions of Vegas. The Fremont Street, the way you see it in the movie, because yes, I went to Vegas way too young. But when the Luxor, Excalibur, MGM Grand went very like, you know, big green and Lion and Wizard of Oz and all that stuff. All these places had arcades attached to them. They were pushing Vegas as like family friendly and stuff. Yeah. And then now it's the Vegas that you see today, which is like cool. It's cool Vegas, right? It's like young adult. And then you see like, you know, the, the Aria and places like Cosmopolitan and stuff. I stayed at the Excalibur with my folks. I had a blast at Vegas, right?
Same.
And yes, yeah. Dude. I mean, good God, I would go down to the arcade and just be there all day. And then Knights of the Round Table, that was what it was all about. So that's the Vegas that the Leprechaun is in. He's in that sort of in between old and what you know as Vegas today.
Yeah, actually, I do remember that too. It was like every casino was like, they had like a roller coaster for some reason. Like New York had a York had a roller coaster. The Stratosphere had like 2 or 3, which I think they're slowly but surely closing them now. Harrah's had a roller coaster too, like a Speedway one. That was the thing back then. You're right. And now it's kind of like this cool, like, oh, you feel like you're in Hollywood, right? But there is one thing about this. I noticed when they are in the casinos, there is quite a mixed bag. And there was a statement about the mixed bag of people that are gambling. Like there's like some very old looking people. And I say that because they are literally on oxygen tanks. And then you look over and you see very young people, and then you see very stylish people, and then you see awkwardly stylish people. They kind of nailed like what I feel like the Vegas mix actually usually is. And I'm curious if that's what it was like in 95. But I was like, okay, there's little statements kind of going around here, including Scott, who's actually like our main character, in the dangers, the cautionary tale of gambling too young and not knowing your limits. Danny's got something to say about this. I love that face. I love the face, Danny. You give me such like an easy out for anything I say.
Look. Okay. No matter when it is that I watch this movie, no matter what age I was and am now, I remember feeling the same way about Scott the whole time. I fucking hate this dude. I just do, man.
But why?
When he opens that on, okay, look, there's a part where, as Lance already mentioned, beautiful segue about the dangers and the threats, right? The temptation of Vegas and how you're like, I'm going to win it back. Gambling, right? The gambling addiction that is obviously an addiction, and folks can fall into that trap. I've been there, where it's like, dang, okay, if I put 100, I'll win everything back, and now you're 400, 500 down in like a matter of minutes. You're like, what the hell just happened? Did I get I haven't seen a beating that like that since someone put a banana in my pants and turn a monkey loose. Can
this just turn into the Vegas Vacation show, please?
It might. But yes, Scott opens an envelope and it's his college freaking tuition. Okay. And I watched this movie well before I went to college. And I remember thinking, don't you fucking do it. Yeah. And you know what? He does it. And it's not just that he does it. It's the face and noise he makes when he has all the chips from he cashed in from his college tuition. And folks, there's a note in there. And it's like, it's from his parents, right? It's like, we're so proud of you.
Yeah.
It's either his parents or his grandma. I can't remember now, but like, there's a note in there like, good luck, Scott. We're so proud of you and all this stuff. And I'm like, you read that? And you decided, you know what? I'm going to cash it all in. And this is where I need to spend all the money that I had for tuition. But yes, he gets the chips, turns from the bullpen or whatever the hell it is, the cashier, and he kind of goes, and I'm just like, you know what, you son of a bitch. Cringe, I hope you lose everything,
And he does immediately within like 30 seconds. It's all gone. 23 grand. His college tuition is done. It's just bye-bye. All right. Well, cautionary tale told. Now what? We've met Scott. We met Tammy, who's stranded on the side of the road, Vegas working girl. Her name is Tammy in the movie. I am straight up from the rest of the show going to call her Alexa Bliss because there are angles that all I see is Alexa Bliss and I can't stop the whole movie. So it's not Alexa Bliss from now on.
Wow. Amazing. I'm with you now forever. Didn't have it before you just said it. Now okay, I do. Good.
I was curious. I was like, Danny's going to hit me with that one. I'm going to hit it first because it's crazy.
There's a Zatara sort of thing. Of course, she's a working girl in Vegas, but not working girl in the sense she's a magician's assistant. She's trying to make it, is what it is. You were gonna see some interesting characters in this movie. Of course, right away, almost immediately, we see the Leprechaun in the state that he's in. Last time you saw the Leprechaun in part 2, he was blown up into pieces. And when you see the Leprechaun in part 3, you're actually, spoiler for the years to come, you're actually going to see him in a state that you see more referenced in the future, right? But the way you see him is he's being pawned off as a statue. He is stone statue, and he's striking a pose. And let me tell you something. Look, all kidding aside, it's a pretty cool looking statue the way they depict the Leprechaun. He's kind of small, but he's kind of striking a pose. His foot's on a rock and shit, and he's got a cane and stuff. He's got a smile, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's the Leprechaun. But when he is being pawned off, he's being pawned off by this guy who I guess the theme throughout this whole movie is the cautionary tale. If there's if there's a room and there's one button and the sign says, do not press that button, what's the person going to do? Of course, go press the damn button. It's temptation. So as soon as this dude tries to pawn this Leprechaun statue off, the bad shop owner, notices that he's got a medallion around him. And it's the only thing that actually looks of any sort of value. So he tries to touch it, and the guy who's pawning the leprechaun says, "Whatever you do, don't touch the medallion." And it's like, of course, this dude's going to touch the medallion. It's like 5 minutes into the movie, So we learn that the medallion has powers as far as casting the leprechaun into stone and freezing him in time, so to speak. So a new part of the lore. First it was 4-leaf clovers, then it was iron. Now it's this goddamn medallion.
Gotta love it. I love it, Danny. This reminds me of like when we did Halloween 3 and you were talking about warlocks and shit. I'm like, oh, we're off base now. We're out of the slasher realm. We are out of the darkness of Michael Myers. We are full blown into magic and chaos and all this kind of stuff.
But wait, Lance, speaking of Halloween 3, have you peeped the garb? Have you checked out the new sweatshirt?
There it is.
Very good. Anyway, moving on.
Came in on Monday.
Yeah, came in right on time. My goodness.
Let's go. So we got the bad shop owner. What I thought was so funny is the guy that brings him this immediately tells us, what does he say? He's like,
oh yeah, he's like, what the hell is this piece of shit? Like, what is this junk? The shop owner says. He's like, it's a good luck charm.
Yeah, sure. I need money. I need money to buy gas and get out of here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know his motive. We know what he's about, but he's gone immediately. Jump to really quick right after this, Scott, the way he's driving when we first see him, I'm like, oh, he's running from the leprechaun too. I don't know why he's so exacerbated going through Las Vegas. He looks like he is on the run, but he's not. He's literally just driving through Vegas to get to LA to go to school. But he looks like he is crazy on the run, and I don't understand why. Like, I was like, oh, something's really happening here. Like, he's in cahoots with the guy at the store. They're running from the leprechaun. They're the ones that stoned him. But anyway, like the shop owner and the leprechaun dynamic is fun. It reminds me, I think, of the original. And was it Dan O'Leary? They first
Dan
started
O'Grady.
Dan O'Grady. They have their little fight in the beginning, right? And it kind of reminds me of, it was kind of like a throwback. It was kind of fun to have like a back and forth. We see the leprechaun trying to find his gold again. Like we're right back on track once the medallion is taken off of Leprechaun, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting that you point that out, because I remember thinking when I watched this as a kid, because it's like putting the big bad monster, how can you put him in a situation? Okay, he's already in Vegas, but it's like he's gonna have to come to terms with the fact that he's in Vegas. You're like, what's he gonna say when he finally realizes he's in this place, right? But it's really hard to articulate. But it's like sometimes in Freddy movies, Jason movies, of course, Michael movies, sometimes there's a character that says something or does something to the monster, to the boogeyman, that kind of throws them off, and you're like, oh my God, what are they going to say? Like you're kind of like talking to them. I don't know how to explain that. It's like if someone decides they're asleep, they're going to run into Freddy, and Freddy's like, doing his shtick, and they're like, wait, can we just have a conversation real quick? I know you're going to kill me. I just want to chat. And then he does, right? So it's weird because the leprechaun is basically set up that way, is that he does talk a lot to everybody. But for this one, it's like he gets like the upper hand, and then he loses the upper hand really quick from the shop owner, who it's like, oh my God, we're right in the beginning of the movie, and it's already this like subplot of these two that are going to duke it out. The shop owner who's getting his ass kicked, right? He's getting his finger bit off, right? His ear is pulled off as well, and then somehow gets the upper hand because, of course, he has a medallion, and then he locks the leprechaun in this big storeroom. And then at one point invites the leprechaun out, and they're across the shop, and the leprechaun's like, I see you left the door open. I'm guessing you wanted to talk to me. And I'm just like, what? Why are you like, what is this? Like, I see you left the door open. Did you want to chat about something? What do you got? I'm just like, it's so weird, but and then the shop owner's like, yes, I want to negotiate. And they're just going to have a meeting. It freaked me out. It was just weird to me. Anyway, that's it.
I get exactly what you're saying. Like it's like the mid 90s had like Tales from the Crypt had a lot of these moments where there's just like, oh, we're talking to the monster, and it's just like this weird kind of like, I don't know, you couldn't do it now, you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't work. It would work in a different way now, but in the mid 90s they did a lot of this kind of stuff, and it's this weird like nightmarish feeling when you're watching it. But a lot of things happen before that, and one of the funniest things I thought was like, okay, this guy immediately knows it's a leprechaun, and he like Googles 1995. Remember, folks, very different. But he like Google searches leprechauns and gets this whole animation history about how to like deal with leprechauns. And I was like,
oh my
how
God.
Badass would that be if like every time you Google something, you got an animation telling you exactly how to deal with it? But it just runs in the background for like the next 20 minutes of the movie. I swear, it's just kind of giving you how the movie works, how the leprechaun works. But what I find so interesting is like the inconsistencies of the magic of the leprechaun, because the shop owner goes back there and he's looking for him basically to take him out or kill him or whatever with a gun. And he sees a reflection, and it's the leprechaun doing the magic. He's projecting himself. Okay, big magic point number one. He's projecting himself somewhere else doing something, you know, and looking distracted. And the guy's like, all right, I got him. You know, there's the gun. Boom, gonna shoot him. Meanwhile, the leprechaun's off to the side, and he finds a statue that is like a Cupid statue, and he like turns it. Not only does he turn the statue, but he pulls the bow of this metal statue and like actually lets it go, and it hits the shop owner in the arm. He's like, oh shit. He like drops them down. Like there's this huge fight going on, but somehow the shop owner still gets away, gets out, and locks him back in. I don't understand why the leprechaun can't get out of a fucking locked gate, but he can do all of that. Explain it to me, Danny, please.
I can't. But I do think that there's something hilarious about that CD-ROM or whatever he puts in, and you know, he Googles leprechaun. It's the way it's the movie, right? The writers telling you, they're like, yes, we know 4-leaf clovers and all this bullshit. We're gonna give you more. We're gonna give you our version of the lore of what will hurt him this time. And maybe that's just because they were like, that iron shit in part 2 was stupid. But okay, but you gave us a medallion that makes him turn to stone, whatever. I always thought that was hilarious because yes, it's a good thing that you typed in leprechaun and got the correct spelling, because he's like leprechaun. And I'm like, don't forget the H. Don't forget the H.
Important,
People forget that H all the time. But yeah, him and the shop owner have like multiple like, you know, fights, and then they just kind of like, okay, or hold on, back to base, right? Like back to one, and then eventually he gets him into the shop so he can negotiate, because he's like, I have the medallion, I have the shit that's gonna fuck you up. So what I need is you to negotiate with me. I'll give this to you, but I need half your gold. And we know that anytime you make a bargain with the leprechaun about his gold, it never ever goes to plan. Obviously, the leprechaun's like, yeah, sure, we'll do that, and just fucks him up, kicks his ass. So, and we're off to the races. We're off to the races where the leprechaun is, you know, fighting to get his gold, but we cut back and forth to what's going on with the other dipshit who has lost all his money at this point. And surprisingly fast, you know. I mean, like, you want to lose your money quick, go put it on numbers and the roulette table. Like, that's how you'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, so he immediately loses his money. He's like, how do I get more money to gamble even more? He has a watch on, and that's when we're introduced. Well, we're introduced to her earlier, but what was her name? Loretta, right?
Loretta.
Yeah, we're introduced to Loretta a little bit earlier, and then into this, and she's like, well, you got a nice watch. Why don't you go hawk it across the street? And that's when the kind of like the drive of this all kind of starts. He does go across the street to hawk it at the store, and the shop owner is dead. He finds the coin, the one missing coin. That's what it always comes down to, right? Is there's one coin missing from the pot.
Always.
Yeah. And that's what is going to drive the leprechaun crazy, is because he's looking for this one coin to finish the pot. Of course, Scott, the dipshit, takes it. And just the ram is going at that time, and he knows, oh, if I make a wish, I'll get it, you know. And he makes a wish that he's back at the tables on a hot streak. And right as the leprechaun's about to get his coin, takes a big old swing at Scott. Poof, Scott's gone back at the same table. He's got all his money back basically, and he's winning. He's hot at the fixed tables, by the way.
Yeah, so obviously this is not the best of all the casinos. Right? I think it's called like the Lucky Shamrock.
Lucky Shamrock Casino,
yeah.
Yes.
With a banner in the front, okay? Like out of all the casinos I will not go into, and it might not be a banner, but it's pretty shitty display. I'm like, nah, I ain't going in there. But he does. And he goes in there, and yes, these are okay. So when Clark goes to the other casino to try to win his money back, and there's all those like shitty games or awesome games, however you want to look at it, that's this casino.
Pick a number. I'm great at that.
Wow. Oh, this is already so much fun. Anyway, so. Yes, Lance is right. There's a fixed aspect to the roulette table where Loretta's got her finger on the trigger, and tales of old casinos. Of course, nothing's changed. There's still some aspect of like you might win in Vegas. You're not going to win that much because then we'll shut the whole thing down. So basically, it's shown that Loretta has been screwing him over and putting a magnet on the roulette ball, but that's a new-ish thing that they've introduced, which is like Morty in part 2 and then Dan O'Grady in part 1 do get wishes. But this one kind of takes a deviation, is that if you are in possession of the coin, you get a wish. So then I was thinking, so you get 100 wishes? That's fun. That would be amazing. But, a little deviation, but still the wish aspect. But yes, wishes that he's back in the casino on a heater, and he evaporates right before the Leprechaun's about to give him the business. And there he is, just winning all his money back. And it's the coin, the shilling, right? It's the thing that is going to be the driving point, because this is basically where they start the game of hot potato, in that once people start to realize what's going on, that Scott's winning because he's got the coin. The coin is the situation. And now they're like, and I love this about the characters that are all around, whether it be Carolyn or Mitch or Fazio or anybody else. Everyone who is like out to get something comes to terms with the fact that this is a magic coin immediately. And I was like, where's the voice of reason? There's nobody there like, no, magic coin, that's got to be stupid. What are you talking about? No, they're like, it's a magic coin. Get that coin. So that was kind of fun. But
it's kind of subtle too, though.
Fucking money back. Yeah.
I kind of enjoy the subtlety that everyone's got a motive, everyone's got a reason and a wish immediately as soon as they find out that little fact. Does he ever say, I want me gold? Is it just a shilling the whole time? That kind of stood out. I know that they do mention the gold is his power later on, but I feel like the whole movie is, I think he literally says, I want me shilling instead of I want me gold.
I wonder, I don't think that there's a rights issue. It might be a rights issue, but this is still Trimark who is still doing it.
I feel like it was just a choice.
Yeah, might be. Yeah, give me my shilling. Right? I want me shilling.
Even the gold's different in this one. I feel like it's a little more like modern, and there's like I forget who's on it, but there's like it looks like a modern coin. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, this is not old ass gold from the 1300s or something like that, or it is. I don't know it, but yeah, it doesn't look as it was before, which is interesting.
Yeah, it was cool because we got to see Loretta, who is Stretch from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I thought it was so cool. I immediately recognized. I was like, "Fuck yeah, Stretch is in this!" Like we got Alexa Bliss, we got Stretch. I'm so happy. Like 10 minutes in, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. She's awesome. Like she just kind of goes for it. You know what I mean? And obviously, we love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. We've got to do that one day because I love that movie.
Oh my god, the day we do Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, we would have already done Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, and hopefully we would do them back to back just so we can have a cleansing, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 it's got its dreadful moments, but it is such a departure from part 1, even though Toby Hooper did them both. But anyway, yes, I agree with you. We will do those in the future. I love I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This is the request line. This is Stretch. Hey, Stretch, it's the buzz. Yes, dude. And so, yes, when I see Stretch and they're trying to make Carolyn Williams look like she's not a hottie, and they do this like bad wig on her, and they make her boobs like really saggy and stuff, and you're like, that doesn't look right. Maybe, there's obviously going to be a thing, because if you make somebody look like that, obvious that they're trying to make her not look the way she actually looks, or like, okay, there's going to be a thing about this later, which it is, because yes, everybody's got their game, their end. So you know, I mean, and we're kind of jumping around here, but you know, Scott wanted to you know, get his money back. He did. In that moment, he of course meets Alexa Bliss, or earlier he does, but now he sees that she's working there. She warned him off of Vegas. She was like, get the hell out of here. Right. Because they have like a nice moment in the beginning, because he like gives her, does he give her a ride? Is that what it was?
Gives her a ride to work. Yeah. Yeah.
But she was like, get the hell out of here. You don't want to be here. You don't want none of this shit. Right. And he was like, no, I want all this shit. But we meet Loretta. We're going to meet Fazio later, but someone who is pretty much running the show and kind of attached to Loretta a lot is Big Bad Mitch. Mitch makes me laugh so fucking much because he's just funny. He's because he doesn't like, he's supposed to run the show. He's supposed to run the, you know, the casino. I don't know if it's because it's Mitch plus the guys that are trying to get their money back from Mitch. And that is like, okay, that's a choice. What's going on with those two? Like, that one dude is trying to be like, you know, he's like, hey, I'm cool, I'm slick. But I'm like, you don't fit in the movie. It's kind of like, it's continuation of that feel. I'm like, there's something wrong here. Like, I get this character, and this character works in big budget movies. He doesn't work right now because he's just kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it's the actor is like making choices. He's almost there. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, those two guys, I didn't know if I was going to actually mention them because they have such a small part. And you're right, they don't fit. It's almost like when Jay and Silent Bob just kind of sneak into like a random scene in a movie. You're like, wait, what? Like, why are they in this? You know what I mean? Like, there's not real motivation for them, and they are just kind of a wild card. And it's almost like they're playing cliche characters. But at one point, the two of them are just having a conversation with each other and talking about socks. And it's like, what? It actually made me laugh. Like, they are actually funny. Mitch is actually funny. There's something about Mitch that's kind of like different or normal. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's I don't know what it is about Mitch. I kind of do enjoy him, you know, in the film.
And, you know, it sucks because like you're enjoying him, and then like there's an aspect of him that, you know, is a little bit sleazy, and so the shilling is getting passed around. Everybody is in one way or another finding out that if you make a wish, you're going to get what you want, right? So Mitch is over here talking to Loretta because they're the grizzled vets, right? Loretta works for him. She's been his like go-to hustler for, you know, taking people for their money, because he's basically the casino manager, Mitch is. Right. And once he gets a hold of the shilling, and he's basically telling Loretta, he's like, Alexa Bliss, Tammy or whatever. She's gonna find me. She's gonna have the hots for me. She just needs to realize that she's in love with me. And then Loretta's kind of like egging him on. Oh yeah. Is that what's going to happen? Well, you wish, huh? You wish that's going to happen. He's like, yeah, has the shilling, flicks it up. And he's like, I wish. And well, that's actually all you need to say to get a wish. And he does get, Tammy, he gets Tammy to basically
Alexa
have
Bliss.
this like, sorry, you're right. Gets Alexa Bliss to have this sort of metamorphosis and stuff. It leads to, Lance, the funniest series of moments in this movie for me, because the Leprechaun is around. He's after the shilling. He's just trying to find out where the hell it's going. All the while, he's kind of just like taking in Vegas and such. Tammy, Alexa Bliss, is doing this like, you know, bombshell sort of, oh, Mitchie, let's go to your room. And Mitch is like, all right, hey, I told you, Loretta, this was going to happen, right? Yeah. And that's when Loretta's like, there's something here. Okay, The funny part is a couple of things. Is when they're in the elevator and she just keeps on like kicking his ass somehow because and then he's like, "Huh, you like this? Okay, cool." But then they get to the hotel. And she's putting on a dance and all this stuff for him, and he's laying on this to his room, the manager's suite, and it's decked out. There's so much carpet everywhere, and I'm just like, this is not practical. You're gonna drop a drink, and then it's gonna stain. Anyway, so he's got the Austin Powers love bed. Alexa Bliss is doing like a little striptease sort of situation because she's under the spell. Loretta sneaks in, takes the shilling, and that's the thing. If you don't have the shilling, your wish is not active at that time. So as soon as she takes the shilling, makes a wish, Alexa Bliss kind of comes out of it and realizes what's going on. She blames Mitch and all this shit, and he's like, "Son of a bitch! Oh, damn it! I can't make sense of you. You'll never." He basically kicks her out and stuff. The funny shit is when the leprechaun is catching up, thinks Mitch still has the shilling, sends this like robot woman in there who you don't know she's a robot yet. She is just like going at Mitch and is all over him. Meanwhile, on the TV, the leprechaun is popping up in all these infomercials where he's like a Miss Cleo. He's an evangelical. Yep. And every time he does one, he's like, "Call me now. I'll read your fortune, especially you, Mitch." And Mitch is being like, that girl's all over me. He's like, "All right, hey, did he say Mitch?" So here it is. When I saw the leprechaun do these things as a kid, it started disarming him even more because he was already hilarious in part 2 and part 1 in a way, but he was scary in 1. When I saw him put on that full head turban as he was like doing like the gypsy woman, I was I am losing it.
Athena Cosmos.
Yes.
He does like a Larry H. Parker one as well, where he's a lawyer. Oh my god!
And then he does like some sort of priest. Oh my god, that is so good. I'm almost dying laughing every time I see it because anyway. And then of course, lets the girl kill Mitch and reveals that she's some sort of fembot and of course kills Mitch in the most heinous way. But yeah, I love that series of scenes. It makes me laugh every time.
I think the infomercials got me majorly. There's another hilarious scene. It's Scott still, he's made all his money. Mitch has kind of closed down the tables from him. It's a little bit earlier in the movie, but he's got the coin, and Fazio, what a name for a magician, by the way. But if you remember Vegas in that time, the family friendly Vegas had a lot of magicians going on. Lance Burton was one of them. They were very glamorous magicians back then. They had a lot of sparkle to them. What's funny is he like finds out that Scott's made all this money, so he's like, I'm gonna steal it for all right, I guess. So he finds his hotel room, he goes up, he sneaks in while Scott's in the shower and steals all his stuff, including the coin. What's hilarious to me is Scott like sees him, he's like, hey, where are you going? And Fazio like he throws like a magic like smoke bomb and does like a bzah for no reason. The smoke clears and you could still see him as he runs away. I died. I thought it was hilarious. This like crazy magician with this nutty hair, which I was like, Danny's going to go off about his hair, but and he just like vanishes. And meanwhile, the smoke is still in the air. And then here comes the leprechaun for Scott. And it's actually an important part of the movie because Scott and him have an interaction and the leprechaun bites him. And apparently the leprechaun's blood is like the predator's blood. It's like acid and it spills out onto Scott. But they have a whole interaction. Scott ends up stabbing him in the forehead. He bleeds out and then he throws him out a window. I couldn't help but laugh at the entire thing. I was just cracking up. Like all of it.
When he threw the leprechaun out the damn window and they shot the dummy falling from the sky onto the ground, you just hear
the sound. the sound of his scream, his yelp as he falls,
Oh,
and he just hits and he's like dead for a second. The whole scene, I was laughing. Like, this was good comedy.
Oh,
You know what I
gosh, it
mean?
was
Like,
so good. But yes, I remember that moment. Okay, first of all, Fazio and his hair. Okay, look, Fazio is another one of those. The actor was cast, and it's like he's not bad. He's kind of playing his part kind of well, you know. It's just some things that you kind of associate with like direct to video and like these originals, like TV movies. Is like sometimes the acting is going to be kind of terrible. For pretty much all of the actors, they kind of rock it, like they do what they need to do. But Fazio, oh my God, it's just, I don't know if anyone else or if you picked this out, Lance, but when he throws that smoke bomb and you could still see him, it's the face he makes because he throws it and he goes. And then he like takes off again. Anyway, so obviously he steals the money because he knows he's got the money. Loretta is kind of like a little bit of an instigator. She's got a relationship with Mitch, and then she's also got a relationship with Fazio where she's like, they're in cahoots for a lot of things. So he steals the money because they're going to split it or whatever. But I don't watch this movie as much as a lot of the Leprechaun. Probably I watch one the most, and then as it progresses is how least I watch it. Actually, I watch probably 4 more than I watched part 3, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because of Loretta's wish and death. It always grosses me out, and sometimes it's like so part 4, I believe it's part 4 of Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a kill where he's stuck, some girl's got like an eating issue, and in her dream he keeps on like overfeeding her. And something about that just like grosses me out because like they do the bit where like her cheeks are big. Anyway, so Loretta, we told you about this earlier. She's got like the saggy boobs and like, she kind of dressed like an old maid. And it's her wish is that she's young and, stunning again, right? And that's basically just a cue for Carolyn Williams in her current state at that moment to just, because she's a freaking smoke show at that time. So she's got the low cut dress and the short hair, and she's killing it. Like Fazio sees her, he's like, God damn, what's going on here? And she's just like, oh, look at this. And she's basically like feeling herself, right? Like really into it. And of course the leprechaun catches up, and I just, it's a little bit of a lot, right? It's a little bit of Carolyn Williams being the victim, and it's also like the crudeness of the prosthetics, and then sometimes like, the end result, and just like what, like if someone's going to show like brain matter or something like that, I'm like, how much are you going to like how excited or how ambitious are you going to be in your creation of the gore, of the guck?
Yeah.
I mean, this one pretty much looked like like the cushion filling or something like that. But what I'm trying to say here is that the leprechaun catches up to her, and he's like, oh, don't you want to, you got the big butt and the big boobs and the full lips. Don't you want more? And he basically just like he makes her lips so big, her boobs so big, her butt so big that it explodes, and that's how she dies. And it's just like the leading up to it. It's just like, man, it's just gross to me. It's funny because it's like over the top and it's almost like a cartoon when you see it. It like reminds me of like the Twilight Zone movie. But I avoid it for that part because it's gross to me. I don't know. How do you feel?
It kind of goes back to what I was saying before, like that mid-90s late night horror film stuff that they used to do. It's kind of bizarre. You almost saw like these kind of prosthetics in like music videos too. There was just this kind of bizarre like look to certain things back then, and it makes you feel kind of gross. It makes you feel like, oh, that's creative, but it's just weird. It's not, it's not realistic in any means. Everything is kind of meant for you to laugh at it. You can laugh at this death. It's not necessarily gruesome. I thought there is a shot when everything blows up and she falls through the door and the head's gone and the limbs are kind of blown out. There's kind of like a creepiness and like a scary, like, ooh, to that quick second, when you just kind of see the torso kind of falling through the door because she can't get through because she's blown up. Yeah, it's a different. It kind of I think matches probably the Leprechaun of this over the top gruesomeness, but it is in that weird mid '90s style. I don't know. It just makes you feel kind of a certain way, a certain kind of grossness to it.
Speaking of grossness, real quick, I talked a little bit about in the beginning about like how Warwick Davis is a champ and he puts on all this makeup and all that stuff. Folks, if you are watching him in progression, you will see that the Leprechaun has grown his hair out. He's let it come all the way out. And let me just say, I am team short hair for the Leprechaun, which is only one movie. Part one, it's like a little curled, little perm situation. I've always found him more scary in that version than when they let the hair grow out. It was a choice. Eventually, oh my God, in part 5, it's like, really long. But he's got the long hair here. The teeth are they got the black char on them, but they're sharp, so that's a little change. But yeah, I just remember kind of feeling like, So I like a clean look. Never liked Rob Zombie's mask for Michael Myers. We all know this. Don't like when Jason's mask is basically shrinking down to a damn like bath bomb. It's not my favorite. I like a clean look. So I'm not saying that the Leprechaun in part 1 was clean looking, but it's something about the hair. It's just like, I don't know, Warwick Davis is probably getting older and stuff, and like his mobility, he's not running around like he was in part 1. He runs a little bit, but yeah, I do want to mention that the makeup tends to stay the same, but like I feel like his eyes are a lot more like it's like smoother around the eyes a lot more. There's more expressive and stuff. But yeah, from part 2 to part 3, not much of a change. The long hair is still there. But yeah, just had to mention that I'm team short hair for Leprechaun, which means I'm just team part 1, the original.
So are you team gray or pink pants? Just curious.
I am team pink pants forever. Pink pants. There's something scary about that. Just saying. He's like, what
I liked about his look, I liked his like clothing and like kind of the darker, more muted look, but I liked that he had a cane immediately. Like he had his signature weapon or whatever it was, because he does beat the hell out of the shop owner, and he kind of has it here and there throughout. So I was like, I kind of like the new Leprechaun thing, you know what I mean? Like he has this thing now, so I'm about it.
Not only does he have a new thing, but Papa's got a brand new bag in the sense of, Lance mentioned it earlier about the predator blood. When he gets into a fight with Dipshit, he bites him. There's an exposed wound. The blood falls into the wound, and it's like the zombie effect. He is now Scott is turning into a second Leprechaun. And they really toe the line of what is Leprechaun lore versus just being racially insensitive. The only reason I said the potato thing earlier today was because they very much make it a thing that Leprechauns love potatoes. So in the sense of in the original, if he saw shoes, he couldn't stop himself. He had to shine the shoes. They got rid of that. They're like, if there are potatoes around, holy moly, this Leprechaun's going to lose his mind. Well, you don't really see the Leprechaun, Warwick Davis's Leprechaun, fall prey to this, but you do see Scott's morphine Leprechaun go ape shit for potatoes. And let me just say, when he's at the table and he's ordering all the different dishes of potatoes, you got French fries, you got scalloped potatoes, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes. I'm like, shit, that looks fun. Yeah, I can get down with that.
Just eat potatoes at the bar of the casino. Perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Let me get a Crown Royal and a baked potato while I play poker.
No Irish whiskey tonight, Danny.
Yeah, you're right. Let me get a Jameson.
His transition, it just I'm like, obviously, Luck of the Irish was inspired by the Leprechaun movies, because he reminds me so much of Seamus. What was it? Seamus McTiernan, from the villain from Luck of the Irish, the Disney movie came out like 7 years after this.
I mean, they make a pretty terrible damn joke because Alexa Bliss gets dipshit into to the hospital because he's like coughing up blood, green blood, and stuff like that, and like his face is changing, his chest is concaving, so they get him into the hospital. And I swear to God, man, when I saw this, even as a young lad watching Leprechaun 3, and it's the age-old joke of the American health system, and it's like, we can help you, but do you have insurance, sort of thing. The doctor asks him, do you have insurance? And he, with all the green shit all over his face, leans up from the bed and says, do you take Green Cross? That pisses me off so much.
This is when the movie just kind of falls out for me. I was kind of like half watching it after that.
When he says that shit, it just kind of should make everyone just kind of go, oh gosh.
Yeah.
It's what I'm saying. It's like, leave the shtick and the puns. There's a reason that Robert Englund is the only Freddy that can ever be. And there's a reason that when they try to recast the Leprechaun to reboot the series without Warwick Davis, it doesn't work. People fall in love with the actor's portrayal. And it's like, nah, man. First of all, you're kind of, I kind of praise the whole cast for bringing it. He's obviously the one that I feel is the weakest out of all the cast.
Yeah.
It might be the subject matter or anything like that, but it's just like, some of the things that he, it's just not, I'm not a fan. And it's like, oh yeah, let's just throw this for, intents and purposes at the time, no name, up against Warwick Davis. It's like, it's a tough ask. Yeah. Anytime he does any of his Leprechaun limericks and stuff like that, it's cringy. It is so cringy. So, yeah, that was definitely a take me out of the moment sort of moment.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of falls apart. There's like a back and forth between him and the doctor, and they're just kind of like one-upping each other. I'm like, what? Like, you kind of had me. Like, I was kind of enjoying this up until this point, and then it definitely kind of falls through. At this point, Fazio he's made his wish. And this is the goriest part of this is like my favorite death of the entire movie. Fazio he's made his wish that he's the most famous, or he's a successful magician or whatever.
The best magician in the world or whatever.
So he's finally got a crowd this time around, and he's finally going to do his master trick, which is like setting somebody on fire, the Inferno or whatever. So he puts the guest in there. And lo and behold, who pops out of the box? It's the Leprechaun trying to find his gold. And he turns the magic on Fazio, trying to get his coin, obviously, and puts him back in the box. And we get the Leprechaun with a chainsaw. And I was like, all right, let's go. I love this. You know why I actually love this is because we have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre alum. I was like, oh, is she on set watching this at this time? I think that would be such a fun thing. Like, I'm over chainsaws and horror movies, or is she like, what? I want to see that scene.
I mean, there's a good chance the whole shooting schedule took like 14 days or something like that. So yeah, there's probably a good chance that she was there. All
pretty much in one place. But Fazio won't give up the coin. He's got it in his hand. He won't give it up. He thinks that the Leprechaun is not a magical being. He thinks he's a normal person, calls his bluff and says, there's too many witnesses. You won't do this. And Leprechaun was like, all right, well, fuck it. I don't give a shit. Zips through the box, and it's actually gory. There's blood splattering out of the box as the magician is being sawed in half in front of an entire audience, and everyone cringing in there. You're like, oh. It's one of those weird things when like an accident happens in a circus show. You're like, oh, is that part of the show? Or like, are we okay? Like, is everything okay?
Yeah. All these trapeze family fell to the bottom, and there's only one remaining family member up there. I believe these are the Graysons. Oh my God. Is he going to become a vigilante killer? Anyway, is that what it is?
I almost wore my Batman hat. Anyway, I enjoyed the gore. I enjoyed like kind of one serious kill out of all of it. You know what I mean? Kind of turning the tables to do it, but showing some of the blood. I don't know. it was a scary like horror moment, and the magician drops the coin and it's on the loose again. But back to, I mean, basically the end of this and Leprechaun versus Leprechaun, that's where we got to get. I thought it was so, there's one more funny scene in this that I wanted to highlight, and I'm wondering if you know what it is, but it's there's a showdown between Tammy, Alexa Bliss, dipshit Scott, and the Leprechaun. And there's a moment where I think I don't know if Tammy pulls out the medallion. I don't know what she does, but Leprechaun's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And he rolls out on the rolling beds of the hospital or something, and he flips them off, and I fucking lost my shit again. It's so funny. Not only is it funny because he's throwing up the middle finger to them as he's riding off, like, shit, can't get you now, I gotta go. But they kind of roll back to him as he's going around the corner, and there's this awkward thing where he's still holding up the middle finger as he goes around the corner. That's what got me. Not just a choice to show it, but to show it twice.
And he's like surfing the bed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It's just oh my God. Yes, dude. It's so unfortunate because, like, okay, this movie wasn't going to win any awards or anything, maybe a Razzie here or there, but it was not going to. It is what it is, right? But you just like, it could have been better if it would have stuck the landing. And it's like all these like moments are like, you know, God, this is freaking hilarious. And you know, the director is obviously, people enjoyed his work enough that they brought him back to direct part 4.
Yeah.
And he was a Night of the Demons 2 director as well. I don't know. I agree with you with that final scene. It's like that one thing about like the sawing in half. You always like, something's going to go wrong, and I don't want to be at the magic show when it goes wrong. And it's like, oh, well, we played on all your fears, and here it is going wrong, right? Yeah. And of course, Warwick Davis, like, you know, he goes for it. Like, he's like, you know, doing like the shakes and stuff when he's doing, you know, sawing Fazio in half. But then we do get to the ending, and then we are there where it's Leprechaun versus Leprechaun. And then we have introduced the flamethrower, and basically you got Scott the Leprechaun with the flamethrower with Alexa Bliss next to him. And then you got the other Leprechaun on the other side, basically on the floor, and there's a back and forth going on. First of all, Leprechaun is doing his thing where he's like, you're full of shit, you can't touch me, I'm magical, try and burn me. And he tries to like burn him with the gun. And this is one of those moments I'm like, I think they wanted to do the bit and they didn't know how to get back to the moment. Basically, the Leprechaun does his like Batman cape, there's another Batman reference, Batman cape shield, where he like has a cloak, puts it over himself, but it just makes him disappear. And then when they try to, you know, burn him with the flamethrower, it basically misses. And they're like, oh shit, where'd he go? Then he just walks back out from the side. And he's just like, just like, he could have just ran over there, I guess. No, but you have to disappear. But he's like, all right, I don't want to deal with this flamethrower anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bargain. He said, I'm going to tell you, Scott, you're my brother. We're brothers. And I'm just like, yeah, that's kind of funny. But it's like this really tall leprechaun and stuff. And you got like Alexa Bliss telling him, like, Scott, you're better than this. You know, don't give in. But Leprechaun's like, all right, here we go. Half my gold. And he puts the pot of gold right there in front of him. And if you thought that the potatoes were a stimulant or a lure for a leprechaun, if he sees gold, yeah, that'll do it too. So Scott's really having to fight his internal struggle of being a leprechaun and being a real person. And basically, it's like, all right, something's got to give in this moment. And what ends up happening is one of the worst destructions of a all encompassing power object. He turns the flamethrower on, not before saying, no, I'm better than you, I'm not like you, something basically like that. Turns the flamethrower onto the pot of gold. He's burning it. The leprechaun is going like, ah, right? He's losing it. And you're just like, well, I mean, it would be cool if we saw like the pot of gold melting or something being affected by it. No, it's just like flame on the pot. It's like, and it just like disappears. It's like, all right. So he burned it into disappearing. But what happens after that is another one of those moments. Like they knew where they were going to spend the money, and it was throwing a dummy of the leprechaun out the goddamn window, and this flying on fire stuntman who is now the leprechaun because you burned the source of his power, which is the gold, and now he's just in the air flailing. Of course, you can see the string that he's attached to, but it just like you go from seeing the pot of gold disappear, and then now he's just flying on fire in the air, making those noises. It doesn't do anything but make me chuckle. It's so fucking hilarious. He's like, ah, and he's dying and burning. And I think that's what's so sad about it is that he eventually falls down to the ground and burns to a crisp, and it's like, that's it. You just burned him. You burned the gold, so it burned him. No, well, okay. That's basically it. That's how they beat the leprechaun. No crazy showdown where they make him, blow up or kick him down a well and then light him on fire and then put a 4-leaf clover in his mouth. None of that. It's just burn the gold. He turns on fire, and he's the flying nun on fire.
Yeah, I thought it was unfortunate. You could see the budget in this final scene, but they made a choice. The gold was going to have a power. It was going to have a connection to the leprechaun. So it didn't work out, unfortunately, but that was the choice that was made. So that's what we get in the end. But Scott and Alexa Bliss come out on top. There's a point.
There is a point. Because if you thought that the reason I thought Scott was a dipshit throughout the entire movie was all the choices he was making and all that stupid leprechaun voice he does, you might be right. But there is a big contributing factor as to why I think he is the biggest dipshit. Basically, it is that Alexa Bliss, Tammy, she's cute and she's got the hots for Scott, and they basically have been alluding to the fact that they want to be together and there is romance there. But how does the movie end? You don't have any budget. You can at least tell a carbon copy romance, the girl and the boy survive, and this is the beginning of a great relationship, right? A beautiful relationship. No. What do they say? They basically say, because Tammy pulls out the golden the coin, and she's like, well, we can continue our luck. We still have this one coin. We can make a wish. And Scott's like, your call. And she has the coin in hand, looks at him and says, I don't know. I think I have everything that I want. And you're like, oh, yeah. Okay, they're going to kiss or something. No, they don't. What happens? Scott says, this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Quoting, what is it? Casablanca, I believe, that quote. And I'm just like,
I thought too. Yeah.
What? You put her in the friend zone? Are you stupid? No, you're a dipshit. I get it. They put their arms around, he puts their arm around Alexa Bliss and they walk off, and then that's it. And look, I'm sorry. You beat the leprechaun. You're not a leprechaun anymore yourself, and you choose to make that choice, make that voice, and quote a movie that we haven't even established that you, Scott, do voices outside of being a leprechaun. It's not your shtick. You're not doing impressions. I think you're going to medical school. Anyway. I was like, ooh, hate this son of a bitch.
Yep. It was the perfect disastrous ending for basically everything after Scott starts turning into a leprechaun. There's a true slide to the end of the film, unfortunately. Where the first one, I thought, once the nut squeeze happens, I'm like, this is where the movie takes off, baby. The last 20 minutes are great. Not so much on this one, unfortunately. Kind of slides. I was kind of buying into the fun of the movie. I'm like, man, this takes me back to late night movies that I wasn't supposed to watch, and it's kind of catching, Now it's more something I would watch on a Sunday afternoon, lights on.
Exactly.
It's more entertaining, but man, the end is such a slide from where the middle kind of takes you. But hey, Leprechaun in Vegas, you feeling lucky?
There is a another aspect of this movie that I want to talk about, which is like if there's one thing that they do, or especially this movie, is they pay attention to the box art. Being straight to video, you got to pay attention to the box art, which ends up being the poster of the movie, right? This one, I remember kind of like giving me the chills. Part one's poster, him, opening a door and he's like, peeking through, but he's kind of far, so you really can't make him out. And then part two, he's holding a candle. The candle never comes into play in the whole fucking movie, but he's holding a candle and he's got the cityscape behind him. And then for this one, it's the Vegas, cityscape in the back, a road to Vegas, which is like, those roads out there that lead to Vegas, they're desert. It's just like there's nothing. And then there's Vegas. And there's the hat, his leprechaun hat, and then he is big up, superimposed on the top, and he's got his like hands over it, and it's like, oh, it's kind of creepy. It's kind of, I don't know why. I just like it's the fact that the hat is by itself in the road. After that, I mean, we'll talk about it next year when we get into part 4 about that box art choice. But definitely this one, I always was a fan, and there's like lightning and stuff, and yeah. It's cool. I always enjoyed that poster.
I'm actually looking at it now, and the way you describe it is kind of perfect. And almost, again, it makes Vegas feel small in some weird way. When you're in it, Vegas feels so big and huge, but you're right, it is a small little city in the middle of nothing. And it kind of captures that pretty well. It actually kind of reminds me of Demon Knight a little bit, like the small town in the middle of nowhere, I actually dig the poster art for sure. And it matches 1 and 2. Like you would have no idea that this wasn't in the theater. You know what I mean? Like I can just imagine somebody being like, oh, I love the Leprechaun. Like, oh, how did I not know this was in the theater? Like I got to rent this right now. It matches so well, which, I dig
that. Yeah. But that actually ended up happening. This was the highest grossing direct to video movie. At 1995, right? Is that what we said?
Yeah, so it sold like 55. That's what they go by for VHS back then, was like how many units moved. It was like 55,000 units. So I'm like kind of like, I wish I knew how much a ticket was. So like try 55,000 times like maybe $4 or something like that. Like that might be your box office. Let me do. I'm gonna pull up a calculator right now and just see what
math
sounds like.
But we already kind of talked about this a while back. Just like there's an interview with Matt Damon kind of talking about like, the industry has changed. And of course there was the ticket sales in the theater. And then it's like, you got like a second release because the videos, the DVDs, the Blu-rays would sell. And that's not what we live in now, right? Everything's streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But back then, oh yeah. And if you bought a VHS, those things were not cheap. They were like $60 or something like that. I remember, or like even more.
Oh yeah. Buying. Yeah, for sure. That's why you would rent, because you might get a dud, man. It's just like buying a CD back in the day. Is like you buy it and you get one good song. You're like, God, I got to listen to the 12 songs I spent $13-$14 on. It wasn't worth it. It was a different time. Oh man. All right, Dan, you got anything else for Leprechaun 3?
We may have mentioned this in the beginning, but this movie will be unique in the sense of course, they go to Vegas, but I don't know if we actually mentioned it. It kind of takes me out of it, but the Leprechaun and, of course, Scott speak in limericks pretty much the entire movie, which is quite the feat. I think that's where the writers were like, this is what we'll do, and they kind of kept it. He kind of does it in 4 and 5 and onward, but this one, it was like, oh my God, he's just speaking in limericks the entire time.
Most of them were really clever, for the Leprechaun, for Warwick Davis's material was very clever, and I was like, oh, I'm about it. It's another thing that you add on to the character. And I'm like, hey, I'm about that. I will say one thing that I really loved was the idea of the Leprechaun's own magic show. Like I said, he kind of takes over Fazio's show, and I was like, I would be down to see that in like a small Vegas show. You know what I mean? Like the Leprechaun every weekend doing like a horror magic show. You know? I think that'd be really kind of rad. I'd be down to see that. I'd pay ticket. I'd pay full price.
But if not the magic show, there's definitely a show that they kind of hint to, and probably the most, in my opinion, the most the scene that stands out the most when I think of this movie. There's a part where the Leprechaun is coming through and walking through Vegas. And what do you know about Vegas? You know about Vegas lights, right? You know about the chapels, and you know that there are Elvis impersonators in Vegas. And holy smokes, folks, the Leprechaun is walking to the casino. A limo pulls up. He's just like, oh, look at this ride. An Elvis impersonator pops out, and you think he's going to kill him right away. And I think that's what's so cool about this scene is that like he walks out and they just kind of like look at each other. They size each other up, and the Leprechaun's like, yeah, I respect, I like your garb. And he's like, well, thank you very much. Say, you got a nice little get up yourself. And the Leprechaun goes, well, thank you very much. He does an Elvis impersonation right back to Elvis, and then they go, say, man, see you on the flip side. And they both do the freaking Elvis thing. I mean, if nothing else, that scene is hilarious, because then the Leprechaun just kind of like does like an Elvis thing, and they like go to the next scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
They actually like, I think, point at the camera too. Like they both do the Elvis thing right at the camera. I think it was so funny. Yeah, you're right. I almost forgot about that scene, but it was like another moment of like great. Even the way he's like, he goes up to the limo, and like, why is an Elvis impersonator in a limo? I don't know. But the way he like scratches the claws against it, again, adding kind of another threat. And you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, besides that, I mean, I think we pretty much covered the movie. It's a fun time, folks. If you don't mind a very questionable depiction of a metamorphosis Leprechaun, and you'll have fun. And of course, there's some horror royalty in there in Carolyn Williams and of course Warwick Davis.
Yeah, awesome. At least for that. All right, Danny, how many clovers do you give Leprechaun 3?
Leprechaun 3 for me is not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite of the series. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a very nice 2 clovers.
2 clovers. I will agree. I will go with 2 clovers for Leprechaun 3. I enjoyed it. I had fun. Once you know what you're getting yourself into, have a good time. Why not?
Absolutely.
Until next time, that's Danny, and I'm Lance, reminding you to
lock your doors,
bolt your windows,
and for pulling this trick, I'll chop off your dick.
That was the choice. Join us next time in our Slashers Paradise. Oh no. Quite the choice, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Hey, did you see anything you like?
Thanks for watching Slashers Paradise tonight. Please hit the like and subscribe button and turn on all of your notifications so you know the next time we post a video or go live.
And if you'd like an audio-only version of the show, search for us on wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. We're on all the platforms. We just ask that you leave a rate and review of 5 stars. And if you don't know what to write in the review section, put a recommendation of a horror movie you would love for Lance and I to talk about.
Yes, and if you'd like to get the full experience of Slashers Paradise, including videos and audio all together, go to deadcandy.com, that's DEDCANDY, or go to youtube.com/deadcandy. Here's to you guys.
This is Slashers Paradise! Sorry, I had to work that in.
And I'm going to drink on that.
Blended Canadian.